Greetings, back with another one. Now, this is going to be new for me, touching on I've never covered anything like this on my channel, but I wanted to talk about it because I delve into some of the manosphere content and stuff like that, and just knowing that if you think that you're the only guy who goes through stuff like this, when you have these moments where you kind of feel like you're lonely, or you just can't seem to find your place in the world and stuff like that, and you think you're the only one going through this, tell me. I tell you what, man, you're not. I used to think that for a long time, because I'm very introverted and I'm very much alone and stuff like that. If it wasn't for me, like, being on the game, talking to my buddies back home on the game, which is very therapeutic for me just to talk to them, because half the time, I'll be on the game with them. We're never really talking about the games, really. We're just talking about life and where we are and where we want to be in the future and stuff like that. So that's kind of therapeutic for me. But I just wanted to touch up on this because I've been hearing a lot about this male loneliness epidemic and stuff like that, and some of the content that I watch or listen to, it touches up on it. I wouldn't say that it's, I don't know. Feel free to disagree. I wouldn't say that it was an epidemic, really. I mean, I think this is just the life of being a guy, really. You know, I mean, when a male is born, we have to forge, if you will, our value, our place in the world and stuff like that. As opposed to women. Women are born with inherent value, stuff like that. But men, we have to forge it. And a lot of times when you're buckling down and just trying to get yourself together, trying to get all your ducks in a row, and just trying to find your place in the world, at times it could be very lonesome and stuff like that. So I got this article about the Good Man Project. I don't know how credible their publication is, but just want to read up on touch up on the stuff. I'm not gonna go through everything. I just wanted to just ramble and just as I always do, put my 31 cents on things, and just to let all my brothers out there, you're not alone. I mean, there's different outlets that you can and like I said, a lot of guys are doing this. That's the good thing about the internet nowadays. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of negative out there. That's why I kind of keep my my stuff strictly for like YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that. I'm not on social media anymore because there's just so much clown world stuff out there, a lot of buffoonery and stuff like that. I just don't want to be a part of it. But they're just guys that I do watch. I'm not gonna name them, but they've in a way in a way they've helped me a lot and stuff like that. And of course, talking to my friends and stuff, my brothers back home. I mean, it starts there. It starts just talking. I mean, guys, a lot of us, we kind of carry on this lone wolf mentality as if we have to do everything ourselves, and it doesn't always have to be that way. I'm a strong. I'm all for brotherhood and stuff like that, and just looking out for your fellow man and stuff like that. Really, doing what you can. I mean, and I'm not talking about money. Just doing what you can to help out your fellow brothers, man. I mean, because you just never know. I mean, just a simple phone call, a simple text. Just checking on your brothers, man. Just letting them know you're thinking about them, man. You'll be surprised how far that can go for a lot of men, because a lot of men, we just a lot of us feel like we're invisible out here, and we just can't seem to find our place. But let me stop rambling. I just wanted to touch up on this. Again, this is about the Good Man Project, and it says the silent struggle of male loneliness. So let me just touch up on this. It says loneliness, a word that often conjures images of silence and solitude. While everyone experiences loneliness at some point, male loneliness is emerging as a significant uh, societal issue, shaping the way men perceive themselves and their place in the world. This phenomenon isn't just about missing a romantic partner, it's a multifaceted crisis with roots in cultural expectations, technology, and shifting social dynamics. But why is male loneliness rising, and what can be done about it? Let's unravel this complex. Well, I have my theories on it, and again, like I said, I don't think it's an epidemic, but I think the real reason is that and like I said, it's so many people, men and women, who touch up on this and stuff like that. But I would say the where I lean to more is when you, because we as men, we pride ourselves in being wanted and being needed, right? So when you go back generations past, the man, was the provider, the protector, and all the other stuff. So now, with the rise of the dreaded F word, I don't know if we can say it, like, I ain't monetized anyway, so what do I care? But the whole feminist stuff and all that, it seems that a lot of young women nowadays are being taught that to no longer compliment the man, you to be more combative with the man. It seems like that, and as we all know, men and women are different. So I mean, trying to get us to gel while simultaneously going down a masculine path, I just don't see that, being. I just don't see that as a winning combination for men and women. But like I said, I mean, to each his own. With you, it's your life. You live the way you want to live. But once millions of men constantly keep hearing, the words that we don't need you anymore and all the other stuff. So it's just, I don't know. It's very heartbreaking. Like, it's very heartbreaking because for me as a guy, you know, I still have yet to experience all the other stuff. But the last thing you want to hear as a guy is that you're not needed, because as we all know, anybody with common sense know that men are the ones who maintain society. I mean, and I'm talking about the silverback guys. I call them silverbacks, the guys who pave the roads. All of, like, so I live in New York City, like all of these buildings and stuff like that. No matter what the temperature is, these men are out here on these skyscrapers building everything, the plumbing, all the electricity, the power grid and all that stuff. The phone lines, the internet lines, and all that stuff. All of the manufacturing and these assembly lines and stuff like that. It's men who maintain the stuff, like the metro system, the public transportation system. It's number of men who do that stuff. So it's very disheartening when you got brothers out here working hard, working their fingers down to the bone, and then you got to hear stuff like that. It can be very disheartening. So it's, and this is just something that's sprang up for a while, but I think it's kind of shifted into turbo, if you will, of this disconnect between man and woman. And I mean, I don't like to see it, and I'm sure a lot of people out there don't like to see it. And it seems that the internet at times is helpful in bringing people together, but a lot of times, at least from what I've seen, I think it's kind of created more distance. We feel like we're more connected because of the internet, but I think it's more of a distance, and I'm sure that this article will touch on, stuff like that. But yeah, I just see more of a disconnect. Continue. It's not just about sitting alone on a Friday night. For men, loneliness often stems from a lack of community, friends, shared interests, or supportive groups. Unlike women, who may define loneliness through the lens of intimate relationships, men are more likely to feel disconnected when lack of broader society social ties. And yeah, I mean, that's true, because, like I said, men, we're kind of, women are more sociable than we are. And again, guys, we have more of a lone wolf mentality. We prefer to do it ourselves. I mean, that's just kind of our wiring. It's very hard for men to connect more. The biggest things I think that connects a lot of people, men and women, I think the biggest thing that connects us is just our interest. When you have like a shared interest, if you partake in a hobby, and you come across somebody who partakes in the same hobby, and like for example, me and my friends, the one thing that kind of connected us and brought us together was video games. When we were all gamers, and we all played basketball, we all played sports and stuff like that. But video games was like the number one thing that kind of brought us together. I'm like the only kind of like the diehard martial artist in the bunch, what I'm saying. But one of my guys, one of my friends, he trained along with me. But definitely it was games. Us being gamers is kind of what brought us together. That shared interest. And we're still friends to this very day. I mean, I've known these guys since I was about 10, 11 years old. You know, I'm in my late 30s now, so I mean, good friends are hard to come by. So you know, if you have them, make sure you hold on to them, man. That's all I can tell you. But yeah, shared interests, I think is kind of what brings you together. Off top, you know, I mean, obviously it can be other things, but I think shared interest is a big one. And where am I? Loneliness isn't always visible. Many men are reluctant to admit they feel lonely, often disguising their struggles behind humor, casual conversations, or even silence. In a world dominated by social media, it's easy to mistake someone's created online presence for genuine connection. Yeah, just as what I touched on earlier today. Earlier, you know, the whole social media thing. It's so many people on social media who proceed to live their life a certain way, but you're only seeing, you know, still frames and only seconds of someone's life. You don't really know how they're living in the real world. So social media can really put up this type of disguise and creating this type of, you know, illusion for people and stuff like that. And that's one reason why that's one of the reasons why I didn't care for it, because you just never know, you know, what's real or what isn't. And you know, especially with the rise of AI and all of these bots and stuff like that, you don't really know who you're dealing with. A lot of these videos and a lot of these pictures are being altered and stuff. You just don't know what to believe anymore. So I think kind of, you know, keeping your, like I said, if you're on social media, I'm not. YouTube and Twitch is all I really have, but it's mostly YouTube for me. But if you're on social media, I highly recommend it keeping down to the minimum. I mean, just because a lot of what people do, you know, we often want to compare ourselves. You know, we always want to look at people who we perceive doing better than us in life, but I think it's better to kind of look at the people who are not, you know, who would love to be in the position that you are in. Because the more you do that, the more thankful you'll be, and you know, the less stress and your cortisol levels will, you know, decrease, because you're not stressing so much of what other people are doing, you know, on the internet and stuff like that. I think a lot of that is causing so much, you know, damage in a lot of ways. I think women struggle with that a little bit more than men do. I don't think, you know, men, we don't, in terms of social media, I think women kind of struggle with that more. I mean, it was studies being done about it. You know, men, we have our own addiction and stuff like that, but when it comes to social media, I think that kind of, you know, targets women a little bit more. Not saying that men can be targeted, but I think it kind of targets women more. I mean, just the way things are, because a woman can just post a video or post a clip or post a still frame just in her bedroom and get all this validation. But you know, I mean, men, you know, we don't have that type of power. You know, our trail is a little bit different than theirs. But anyway, moving on from that, I don't want to touch on that too much. But where I'm at, the roots of male loneliness. The rise in male loneliness isn't an accident. It's a byproduct of societal shifts and evolving expectations. Research points to several contributors: social isolation, job insecurity, romantic disillusionment, masculinity norms. Okay, so societal isolation. As men age, their social circles often shrink. Unlike women, men may not prioritize maintaining friendships, leaving them with fewer closer connections over time. Job insecurity. Work plays a huge role in shaping male identity. When men lack stable employment, it affects not just their finances, but also their self-worth, making it harder to maintain social ties. I definitely agree with that one. Uh, and again, I don't think women do this, you know, maliciously, but as men, we're looked upon as, you know, Chris Rock was joking about this. He said men are only loved if they provide something. He said only what do you say? He said only dogs, women, and children are loved unconditionally, but men are only loved under the condition that they provide something. I kind of do agree with that in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, there's probably exceptions out there, but you know, what we do as men, it's kind of on the forefront. again, Chris Rock was joking about. He said, "Oh, I got this friend you should meet," and he's talking like he said he got a like it's a guy friend talking to another guy, and he said, "Oh, I got this this lady I want you to meet." And the first thing the man says, "What she look like?" But you turn that around, the woman is saying, "I got this guy I want you to introduce you to," and she says, "What does he do?" So it's just it's just how we're wired. It just a woman's how her vanity and her youth and fertility and stuff, that's at the forefront. As men, our ability to make money and have a stable income and provide for the family, and protection and provisions, all that stuff, that's kind of on the forefront for us. Not to say that there aren't women out there who can't look past just the money and stuff like that, but that's it's just our wiring. I mean, what they say, women are like what, sexual objects, and men are success objects and stuff like that. It's just a lot of points that people put in there that I carry with me over the years and stuff like that. And a lot of it is just primal. A lot of it is just nature. But continue. What's the next one? Romantic disillusionment. Modern dating, dominated by apps and algorithms, creates a competitive landscape where many men feel left behind. Well, I'm not. I won't say. I'm not gonna. I can't say that the apps help, but honestly, though, I mean, and in the manosphere, there's a term for it, but it's actually science. It's actually scientific rationale that backs it up. It's called hypergamy. Women are hypergamous by nature, right? So what does that mean? They are looking for the most successful, the most higher status men that they can attract, right? So in my theory is we're kind of going back to the primitive times, where you had the guys who were the top earners and all that stuff, high status and stuff. They got like the vast majority of females chasing them, and then all of the guys at the bottom. It's like what they say, like the top 10%, or like I've been saying like the top 15, top 20. I don't know. I mean the percentages changes, but it's kind of it's between like top 10, top 20, something like that. So and the funny thing about the dating applications is that I like what they did. They exposed the swiping tendencies between male and female, and what it showed, it said that how men swipe on women, how men judge women in terms of how they swipe. They do it on a bell curve. So it's basically saying that because most of us are average, right? Which is nothing wrong with that. Average is fine. So it says that the vast majority of average men perceive the vast majority of women to be average. So it's kind of even. That's how it works on the men's side, the bell curve, right? But on the women's side, it was much brutal. Women judge men, or at least how they swipe, on a slope. And what does that mean? It's basically saying that the vast majority of women deem the vast majority of men below average, less desirable, right? So, but that's the hypergamy, right? It just so regardless of if the dating applications exist or not, this is something that's been throughout human history. I mean, what's it? It's been said. It was another some data that came up. It says like only 40% of men throughout human history, recorded human history, has only been able to reproduce, and this is during the times of conquering land and all that other stuff. So I mean, where war was more frequent at the time, stuff like that. So I mean, Chinggis Khan, he had like what 500 wives and stuff like that. So I mean, so it was mostly just the monarchs, the royals, and the conquerors, who were able to do it all, who is able to carry on their bloodline and their lineage and stuff like that. Yeah, you may have some peasants who were able to have families and stuff like that, but overall, it still wasn't the majority of men. So, but that's the hypergamy. So I think because of the hypergamy, I think vast majority of men probably won't be able to get that. But it doesn't mean that your life is for naught. I mean, there's plenty of things that you can do. I mean, you can still have a legacy, right? But yeah, I mean that's just the fight that men have. They in the manosphere they talk about the wall and stuff like that, and I think the wall for men. I think we're kind of born with the wall like right here in our faces. And our test is, will we ever make it over the wall? For women, it's like the wall approaches as they age and stuff like that. But that can happen, you know, between the ages of, their mid 30s going into their 40s. So that's, like I said, we have our battles. Men and women have their different battles and stuff like that. So, but I'll continue. I'm gonna go down to this. Is romanticizing loneliness a cultural shift? Ever notice how movies and TV shows glorify the lonely man? No. I don't really notice that. I mean, like I said, I don't really watch too much modern, or if at all, modern television, modern film. I really don't. I watch a lot of older stuff. Um, I would say the new, probably the latest TV show or TV series that I watched was the show called Outlander, which is pretty cool. I enjoy it. But I don't know. It really didn't glorify the lonely man in that one. But that's neither here or there. But like I said, I don't see it. I don't see TV glorifying lonely men. I mean, maybe modern television it does, but because like I said, I don't really partake. I really don't watch it too much. But let's just see what they say. It says characters like those in Her. What was that movie? Her. Oh yeah, Her. That was the film with was it Joaquin Phoenix, and he had I guess he had like this relationship with the. It was voiced by Scarlett Johansson, and but Scarlett, it was like this application on his phone, but he developed a relationship with this application on his phone, and the voice was voiced by Scarlett Johansson. I mean, I get. I mean, yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, it was a. I enjoyed the film for what it was. I mean, yeah, it was. It was very sad when they were depicting that and stuff like that. But yeah. I mean, I guess that's one film, and it says Blade Runner 2049. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that Blade. I only seen the original, so I can't touch upon that. But it says it depicted the men who are deeply introspective by tragically isolated. While these stories resonate with two films, right? But it said while these stories resonate with many, they they also risk normalizing loneliness as a inescapable part of the male experience. Well, I mean, art imitates life. So, I mean, everything that we see in films, it has to come from somewhere. Even if it's an imagination, even if it's something that's science fiction, but when it comes to the human conditioning, when it comes to, the dynamic between male and female, I mean, art imitates life. So to say that the films or television is, reinforcing it, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, it just, like I said, I mean, these writers and these producers and stuff, they look at what's going on in the world, and then they put it on screen. I mean, yeah, it may be exaggerated and embellished a lot, but it comes from the real world. It says breaking the cycle. I said the question remains: how can men overcome loneliness? The answer lies in a small, actionable steps. It says build new connections, which it says join groups or communities that align with your interests, whether it's a local sports club, book groups, or hobby classes, or hobby class. I can't read today. Hobby class engaging with like-minded people can reignite a sense of belonging. I can agree with that. I'm like I said, as a martial art, practicing martial arts, and I really need to get back into it. But when I was in a martial arts class, studying with my dojo brothers and sisters, it really was, um, it really was. I don't even know what word for it, but it was an incredible feeling just to like knowing that you're around people that had the same interests and stuff like that. Martial arts was really big for me. I mean, in terms of and honestly, it wasn't really about the combat aspect of it. It was just about the reassurance that you got from your instructor. Like my last grandmaster, it was kind of like a father son relationship between him and I. I don't know if he saw it that way, but for me, from my perspective, it definitely was that. And 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 the way I saw it is just, the techniques and the katas and the forms and all that stuff that was simply used as a tool to strengthen that bond between pupil and instructor. That's how I saw it. And I got to a position where I was, talking to, teaching, like, the younger students and stuff like that. And it was a great feeling. It really was. And I love martial arts for that reason, because it, just everything it teaches you. It teaches you, discipline. It teaches you repetition. It teaches you, the conditioning of the mind. It really teaches you how to channel your emotions and really keep your cool. That's why I don't raise my voice, and I would never let anybody rattle me. Of course, when I was younger, that happened, but once I became, fully ingrained with the martial arts, that went beyond just the combative side. I really started to look inward and really started to take in what the true teachings was, and that's really to. I mean, like I said in the previous video, the greatest opponent that you're ever going to face in this life is yourself. So, I mean, it starts up here. So whatever you decide to do up here, the rest is going to follow. So you really have to train your mind, train your brain into not letting those emotions get the better of you, because a lot of times it can generate a lot of horrors for you, if that makes any sense. So I would say, yeah, building connections, with people of the same interest as you. I really do agree with that. I mean, it starts there. But I will say, over time, man, it's like a lot of men have lost a lot of their spaces, man. It just I read up on a lot of stories. You have like local pool halls and local watering holes and stuff like that. And because, like, what's that term they call toxic masculinity, and just one of the most outrageous terms I've ever heard. But it's been demonized a lot, man. I remember seeing a clip years ago. I think it was like a Vice clip. I can't even remember. It was just a bunch of men who were just gathered just to talk about, their lives and their struggles and stuff like that, and things they were going to. And it was just a bunch of women who approached them with like picket signs and all these placards, just bashing the men, and they didn't even know what the men were there for. But because they saw just a group of guys there, that they know these guys must be up to no good and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of that, man. They just so I get so in the physical sense, I guess a lot of men just feel like that they really can't congregate physically in the world no more, because they're just looked upon as just being the villains. So I guess the digital world is kind of a safer place for them to congregate, I guess, because it's a lot of it, and of course the media doesn't help. The media, every time when it's something horrible, it's just it seems to be one sided a lot. What I mean, and I think a lot of guys are find themselves in a lonesome position because of that as well, because they're just seeing. I mean, for example, there was a study of not a study, but there was this practice that went on. I believe it was in Australia, and these were young boys. I mean, these were like middle school age kids. They were told, they were told to apologize for all of the stuff that men of the past did, and these boys weren't even born when these things were occurred. But they were taught to stand up and apologize to their female classmates for something like this. I mean, how do you expect young men to react to something like that? And of course, when the parents found out about it, they were outraged about it. But that's neither here nor there. But it's just examples like that where a lot of young men, they feel that they're being pushed out of society and stuff, and they, I don't know. But I like I said, I listen to a lot of these stories and stuff like that, and just you just won't believe. I mean, a lot of it will really make you really it will really make you emotional when you just hear what a lot of young guys go through. But what's the next one? It says reconnect with old friends. Lost touch with someone? Reach out. A simple text or coffee invite can reopen doors to meaningful relationships. Like I said, man, I got my friends back home. I mean, we're on the game all the time. Just conversing. Again, we're not even talking about the games really. We'll be in a party for hours on end, and we'll probably talk about the game maybe for like our first 30 minutes we're in the party, but after that it's just talking about life, man. Just talking about ourselves and where we are and where we want to be, and the mistakes, and trying to learn from it. That's mostly what we talk about. So like, and I very much believe a lot of that's happening in the digital space. I think a lot of men are connecting with other men doing that and stuff like that. But it's just connect with old friends. I mean, a lot of us tend to lose our friends over the years, not because we're mad at each other. It's just that life happens. Maybe you got a job and you got to relocate, or you got a dream that you want to pursue and you relocate. I mean, that's what I did. That's why I'm up here in New York. I have this cockamamie dream of trying to getting into film and stuff like that, and I'm want to see it through. But I still have future prospects in terms of occupation in the future that will require me to be up here in the Northeast. But it's just things like that. But like I said, man, I mean that's the good thing about technology. With the phones and the internet, stuff like that. You have your family and your friends that you connect with, or if you don't have good relationship with your family, or you don't really have friends like that, like I said, build new connections and stuff like that. There's like I said, man, there's a lot of people who going through the same things that you're going through. I had to discover that the hard way. I always used to think, man, I'm the only one's going through this, man. But when I started, tuning into these channels and these videos and stuff like that through the manosphere, it helped me a lot. Because I wasn't always talking to my friends all the time because they have lives of their own, right? So watching these videos and listening to these guys and stuff like that, and just what they go through currently, it helped me a lot, and it really taught me to be thankful for what I have too, because there's people out here who are doing far worse than you are. Trust me on that one. And what's the last say? Talk about it. Admitting loneliness isn't a weakness. Opening up to trusted friends or family members can be the first step towards healing. Like I said, man, for me, like I said, I can only speak for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, it's therapeutic. Just talking about anything. And again, women are much better than men at it when it comes to that. I mean, they will talk about anything. I mean, it could be anything. It could be something really really small, and it don't matter. They unload. But I think it is better to do that, because when you keep all of those emotions bottled in, whether it's sadness or anger or something like that, it does affect you physically. It does affect your organs and stuff like that. Cortisol levels and stuff, that when the cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, when that stuff rises and stuff, like it really can turn into an illness in your body. So like it's not best to keep that stuff bottled in. So let that stuff go. But find somebody to talk to. Anybody, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't have to be a friend, doesn't have to be a relative, man. I mean, you just get that off your chest. That's one reason why I like having this YouTube channel, because I can talk about stuff like this, or whether it's an interest, a hobby, or just something that I just want to, like I said, I tell my buddies today, just put your opinion out there, because you never know, who may agree with it, and even if the people who don't agree with it, they see it, and maybe you can chat about it and debate about it. Who knows? I mean, putting your voice out there, it goes a long way, and it doesn't require money or anything like that. It just put your voice out there, because you just never know who's listening, man. And it says focus on self improvement. If low self esteem is holding you back, work on areas you want to improve. This could mean hitting the gym, pursuing a new skill, or seeking therapy to address underlying mental health issues. This speaks to me a lot. I've suffered. I think I still suffer with low self esteem. To be honest with you, I'm very hard on myself and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I want to do the best that I can in terms of output. And when I was training in martial arts and stuff like that with a class, I beat myself up a lot. When I was at this tournament, the first and the only tournament that I did, and I just didn't like the atmosphere of it, man. Because I was training more of a combative side, more of a street survival. I just my mind wasn't set on like the tournament aspect of it. So I mean, even though I did well, but I don't know, man. I just beat myself up a lot, and my grandmaster, he saw that, and he just said, he kept telling me, "Don't worry about, it, don't worry." But I just kept worrying about it, man. I just beat myself up really, really badly, man, because I just didn't think I did as well as as I wanted to. So especially when it comes to something that I have an intense interest in, and I think a lot of you may agree with this, when it's something that we have an intense interest in, that we put a lot of time into, when it comes to the outcome of it, we're always asking, we're always telling ourselves, man, I know I could have did better than that. That's how it was for me in that aspect. So it's avenues, it's those certain avenues that you take that kind of will put you in that state of having low self esteem and stuff, and just not feeling that you're good enough and stuff like that. But again, I think a lot of that has to do with social media, man. People online comparing themselves to other people's lives and all that stuff, and just I think a lot of that can be a contributing factor to just not feeling that you're good enough. But yeah, man, they're just having what do you say, hitting the gym, get those good endorphins and stuff like that. Pursuing a new skill, sure. Therapy. I don't know. I think therapy nowadays has become really feminized in a lot of ways. I mean, it can help. I mean, I don't know. That's always kind of seemed to be the route that women will always suggest. Throughout my life, they would always say, go to therapy, go to therapy. But I never really heard men saying that, like, go to therapy, go to therapy. Men would just always say, just talk to your buddies, talk to your friends, talk to your family and stuff like that. Let them know. That's what my guy friends would always say. But it was mostly the women that always say, go to therapy, go to therapy, go to therapy. So it just, I don't know. I've never been in it, but from what I'm hearing, at least in modern times, it just, I don't know, may not be a route that a lot of people should take, at least nowadays. Just judging on the landscape on how things are nowadays. But all right, I guess I'll touch up on these last two. The role of women. Male loneliness doesn't exist in isolation. It impacts everyone. Women often find themselves providing emotional support for the men in their lives, whether it's a partner, father, or friend. It says women often find themselves providing emotional support. Well, women are more emotional than men are, so I mean, their role in terms of support, it comes more naturally to them. Guys, we always feel like, because we're the leaders, right? So we always feel like we gotta lead and provide and stuff like that, which I do agree with. I think that the man should be in the leadership role. Call me old fashioned if you want. That's just. I think that's the natural order, and I think it should remain. That's just how I see it. But at the end of the day, men are human, right? Well, we're not machines, right? We have feelings. We get fatigued and all that stuff, and there are moments where we do feel weak and stuff like that in terms of the body and stuff like that. So, and I think that's something that we don't really want to show to the opposition, because I guess we may fear that they may see us as weak if we show like just a modicum of it, and that can probably that probably can be a cause for concern for a lot of guys and stuff like that. But for me, it's all about finding that middle ground of understanding what each other's roles are and stuff like that, and knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and vice versa. You know, and again, it doesn't have to be anything major. It can be very, very minor and concise. But it says, while it's not a woman's responsibility to fix male loneliness, small gestures of connection can go a long way. A heartfelt conversation, a shared activity, or simply checking in can make a difference in the world. I mean, true is, yeah, it's not their responsibility. I mean, honestly, I don't think they really care. I think they believe that we got to come already pre-assembled and just ready to go. It's not like how it was generations past. Generations past, man, woman get together, and their life experience is close to none, and they used to learn together. You know, I don't think it's like that anymore. I think because, like I said, all of these influences on social media and on the internet, it's like fast food dating now. I mean, just everybody just what Joker says. He said, if I don't have a burger, fries, and shake 3 minutes or less, It's unacceptable. It's just people just don't want to take the time to grow anymore. And I do kind of believe that kind of pushes more to the women's side now because women are making their own money and stuff like that. They're kind of doing that same climb like guys are doing now and stuff like that. And if a guy is not making a certain amount of finances, or if he doesn't have an occupation that's glamorous enough for them to brag about and stuff like that, it. I mean, back during our grandmother's time, our great grandmother's time, the only requirement that our grandfathers, our great grandfathers was just to have a job. Really didn't matter what it was as long as it was honest work. You know, I honestly believe that the blue collar guys are kind of being, forgotten a lot. I mean, even though I think those are still the most important, workers that we got. I mean, like all of the essentials that we take for granted. For example, in my room, I expect electricity to work. I expect the plumbing to work. I expect, when I go to work tomorrow, I expect the buses to be functional and stuff like that. So, I mean, the foundation that this building is set upon, this stuff is not just it's not just maintaining itself. So I mean, and it's men are doing that. So but I feel like a lot of, I mean, especially nowadays in modern time, I feel like a lot of those men are being looked down upon now. And any job that requires you to get your hands dirty, it just seems that it's not good enough for some people. I'm not gonna say everybody, but just I think a lot of the blue collar brothers out there kind of feel left out and stuff like that. Now you got to be this top level executive, the corner office, all this other stuff, So I mean, like I said, I hear the stories, I hear the conversations, man. So I mean, I think a lot of that probably contributed can be a attributing factor for men who are just kind of like in a lonesome state down in the dumps, feeling that they're not good enough and all that stuff, but. Oh man, at the end of the day, man, it's just having that sense of community and just knowing that you're not the only one going through it and just trying to find that connection with other people who are in the same boat that you're in. It, like I said, man, it goes a long way. It really does go a long way, man. I just wanted, like I said, I'm not going through all this because there's a lot of stuff that they have, but again, do I think that this is an epidemic for men? Not really, because that's the average man's life. It's gonna be a moment in time where he is alone, and he's gotta forge his value. He's gotta figure out what he wants to be, and know, like, he has to know where he is, know where he stands, so he can know where he is going. Like the great George Gervin said, like, only if you can't know where you're going unless you know where you are. So I just wanted to touch up on this, man, because I hear it, I see it, man. I mean, what more can I say? Except just keep your head up, man. Keep your head up. You're not the only one going through this, and that's one of the reasons why I do like doing YouTube and just talking about this stuff because. And like, again, I talk about this with my friends all the time. One of my friends calls me up, just to get a second opinion and stuff like that. It's good to know that you're being thought about in that way. Just knowing that someone can turn to you and knowing that you can turn to them. And I talk to my parents about this stuff, and yeah, man, it's great. It's great, man. I mean, and like I said, it doesn't have to be a blood relative. It doesn't have to be someone that you've known for thousands of years like me. It could be anybody, man. It could be a guy or person working at the corner store, behind the cashier's desk, working at the fueling station, or just, I'm like I said, I live right next to a church. I mean, it's a lot of community in there. So I mean, it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere. So that's the one thing that I've learned because I've really moved with a stone heart for most of my life, being very closed off and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm still a young man. I have a lot of living. I have a lot of living left, and I don't want to walk around, with my heart in stone. I just don't, because it's not healthy for me. So I want to be open as I can, but it's easier said than done. Because I just think the trust factor is, you know, increasingly have significantly diminished. I think America as a whole still a high trust society, but I think a lot of it has really gone down and stuff like that. A lot of our, a lot of our core values and morals have been, you know, challenged and not for the better, in my opinion. I think a lot of it has, been damaged and stuff like that. Doesn't mean we can't, get it back. Doesn't mean we can't maintain it and hold on to it. But as I always say, man, family is number one. Family is the most important thing. I don't care how much money you're making. I don't care what your status is. Family is it. That's what made our country strong. It's just the family, man, the nuclear family. And I wouldn't be standing here talking to all of you if it wasn't for my family. My parents, my siblings, my grandparents, like everybody in my family, is responsible for, for me. And what they've taught me is what I give to all of you, and like I said, man, family, man. And like I said, it doesn't always have to be blood. It can just be anybody that means a lot to you, who's been there for you since day one. Hold on to these people, man, because like I said, it's hard to come, because just like it said earlier, as you age, you tend to, distance yourself from people, and it's a lot of that. As people get older, they just kind of just, I won't say they cut off friendships, but they just lose contact with other people. And I'm glad that I'm not one of those people. I still keep in touch with my friends and stuff like that, and my siblings and all that. So can it be better? Sure, it can always be better. There's always room for improvement. But I'm thankful for who I have in my life, and I'm thankful for my parents and what they've bestowed upon me, and my sister, my brothers, and all that stuff. I mean, everybody, man. I mean, you just never know, man. So just, yeah, man, just reach out there and touch somebody. Not literally, but figure of speech, but and just keep your heart open, man. Keep your mind open. Keep your mind sharp. You know, um, and also I've helped, like, just reading, man. Just reading and like constantly learning. That's one thing I love doing. I just love learning about stuff. It could be anything. It could be something that has to do with the planets, the solar system. It could be something that does about the ocean, sea life, and stuff like that. Plant life, or what happened during the Stone Age and stuff. It could be anything, man. It could be like right now I'm reading this dictionary. It's a cliche dictionary. It's talking about all of the cliches that we use in life, and it talks about the history of where those cliches came from. I bought a book like that years ago. I think when I was working for like Goodwill and stuff like that, and there was just some book there, and I was like, "This is interesting." So I just bought it and I kept it with me, and I'm still going through it. I've went away from it for many years, and then now I've just picked it back up. But I had it in my closet. I had it with me for so long, but I just picked it back up and just reading the stuff, and I'm still currently learning, the Japanese writing system and all this stuff. Just learning stuff, and man, it just that's always been fun for me. When I'm not gaming and stuff like that, that's what I'm doing. I'm just researching and stuff like that. So. Oh man, but I've rambled long enough, man. But I'm sure you guys get the message, man. But like I said, for all of you guys who who are within that demand spaces and stuff like that, and watch the type of content, and if it's helped you in some ways, you know, give me a shout, man. Feel free to leave your comments, man. So because it's helped me a great deal, and just knowing that the friends that I have, I don't really call them friends anymore. I call them my family. They're like brothers to me, man. And these are guys I've known for over 20 years now. So yeah, man, I'm thankful, man. But all right, y'all, man. 31 cents at it. Another one for the archives. It's your brother Bleak signing out. Until next time, you guys. Us.